We'll get started. All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Board of Commissioners meeting for Tuesday, July 16th, 2024. All commissioners are present. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, next up is a space for comments for items not on this agenda. All right, hearing none. Next item is approval of minutes of July 2nd.
Also move. Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed unanimously. Polk CDC request. Diana, you on? You hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yep, you're up.
Okay, well, my name is Diana Satanovich. I am a program developer for Polk Community Development Corporation. And in the interest of time, and I'm sure you have many, many things to deal with, I'm just going to go through the printout that I gave you very quickly, and then from there answer your questions if that's okay with everyone.
Sounds good.
Okay, so very briefly, and excuse me if you already know this stuff, but just to unfold how it goes, this is what I put forward. So Business Oregon Infrastructure Finance Authority provides these community development block grant programs for a variety of things, as you well know. And for us, it is the Housing Rehabilitation Program. And they have two methods of providing the funds. One is a Type 1 award, which offers loans, low interest or zero interest loans to eligible owner-occupied homeowners. And the second is a grant program. And we have for many years only applied for the grant program because our experience is that, about 60% of the people on our wait list are seniors. And they just are not willing to take out additional debt on their homes. And when we have provided loans, it turns out at the end of the day, when we can recapture the funds, when the title changes and the person passes on, there's no equity left because as they age, they end up using all their equity. So we have no repayment. And in order to get the money out the door and help people, the grant program has been the most successful way for us to do so. So we are asking the county to be the lead applicant in a new application for a Type 2 housing rehabilitation program to provide grants to owner-occupied, low-income households in Polk County, non-entitlement Polk County. And so we've been doing this since 1989. And then in the 90s, the department, the CDBG, asked that in order to apply, you had to form a collaborative or a partnership with two contiguous jurisdictions, which we did in 2006. And the Polk Regional Collaborative consists of of Dallas, Independence, Monmouth, Falls City, and Polk County. And whenever we get a grant and we provide the funds to a homeowner, it's for any eligible homeowner on our wait list in non-entitlement Polk County. So if Falls City gets a grant, whomever's on the wait list comes up, whether they live in another jurisdiction or not, they get the help. And I think everyone in the PRC, Polk Regional Collaborative, understands that. So since 2006, we have received 12 awards, as you can see in the list I provided. And the last time Polk County was the lead applicant was in 2015. So that's one reason we're asking. And I want to ask you quickly, are you aware of any open CDBG grants you have at this time?
I see head shaking no.
FCO is closed, right?
Do you have an application open for a food bank?
Not that I know of.
Oh, good, because I asked Arthur, and he thought you did, but it would come as no one a surprise to anyone that the department isn't always caught up on its record keeping. That's kind of true of us sometimes as well. So anyway, so you have no open grants. That's really good. And then how it works. So if you are willing to do this, the first thing that has to happen is, and you have to be invited, and we do an intake, and the department will send the intake form and the application form to the person you delegate as your certifying officer. And from there, I, with other jurisdictions have done this, is I go online and I prepare the intake and provide the supplemental documentation, and I prepare the application and all the supplemental documentation. And then the certifying officer can always see what is going on, but you don't have to do anything. And so then if an award is made, and I will give you an example of the time frame because I think this is important with all of you because you're so busy, is an example. For example, Independence received, no, that's not true. Yeah, Independence received an award in I'm going to go with Fall City. Fall City received an award in December of 23. And you can't do anything until a contract is executed with IFA. The contract with IFA was not executed until May of 24. So then we can begin the administrative due diligence to go forward and eventually get the release of funds for the project. And this just happened because the environmental review and all of the correspondence and everything, it takes quite a bit of time, and it has to be accepted and reviewed by the department, which takes more time. And the environmental review had like 60 files in it. So moving on now, we are going to request a release of funds this week for the Fall City grant. Now, the Independence grant is 95% obligated and 50% dispersed. So that will be completed, in the next couple months, and then the Fall City grant will open. And the reason we're going after a new application now is because it takes so long to get to the point where you can actually start dispersing the funds to the eligible homeowners. So if you look at the last example, award in December, contract in May, due diligence completed and approved by the state. So a release of funds now, and we will be done with Independence by the time we start Fall City. We will be done with Fall City should we go forward with the new grant, because this application goes in at the end of September. We may be able to see an award or no award notice of by the end of the year 24. Then there's the contract again. So we would not even start the actual project activity with homeowners probably until summer of 25. And so that's kind of the reason we go forward every year with a new application. If you look at the 12 we've done, the average time it takes to complete them has been a little less than a year and a half, and the projects are for 2-year programs. Okay, so what is needed now is, if you decide that you are willing to be the lead applicant, then we need to have a public hearing. I need to notice in the paper for the public hearing. And then those two items, the notice, the approved minutes from the public hearing, go in, and that initiates the start of a intake and application. So it's a lot of information, and I would welcome any questions you have at this point.
Yeah, so thank you, Diana. Craig here. I guess the first question I would have is, do you have a summary of projects with some kind of pictorial or some kind of demonstration of what projects have looked like since 2006? I mean, this is a lot of data. It's great information, but I have no idea how it's impacted my constituents during this time frame that you're outlining here, these awards. So It would have been nice to have a list of successful projects and at least some photographs that show what happened and, how do people benefit? Because I could certainly see, not to be critical, but I could see the benefit to agencies for administrative. And I see an allotment, for this project of how much housing rehabilitation activity money. but I have no idea how that breaks down and how many projects there are, and in the past years, how many that's represented. So I'm trying to figure out, personally, I'm trying to figure out, how does this benefit my constituents? You know, how do we show this? How do we exemplify that this is the right thing for us to be involved in?
Okay, so we have, with the 12 applications we have, the average number of homes assisted with each award used to be about 22. And now with the inflation and the cost of supplies, et cetera, and then new due diligence has been required by the state under the environmental umbrella, such as radon testing and things like that. So I would say if you were to average 20 times 12, what is that? 20 homes times 12, that's 240. 240 homes have been assisted. I agree with you that pictures can always be worth 1,000 words. And every time we do an application, every time we finish and close out a grant, we are required to provide before and after pictures to the state. And we can certainly supply you with those if you like. I can tell you that the most common, if you look at our wait list, the most common rehabilitation work to be done is our roofs. And roofs have been about $20,000 to $25,000 each. And that is the maximum award without having to enter a world of very complicated testing that you can give to a homeowner. So 25,000 is the maximum award. The average award has been around 17,000, and roofs and water, plumbing are the most common issues, especially for older homes, because people have such deferred maintenance. But that's basically what is most common. And other than that, I can provide you photographs if you would like.
I personally would like to see the inventory. So you give me awards from 2006. I want to see the inventory of the projects.
Yeah.
So by the inventory, you want to see the number of homes or the names of the people, or what?
I want to see what the projects were.
Oh, what the projects were.
Yeah, show me the inventory of the projects, so we can see how it's impacted our county and our constituents.
Well, I just told you that the most common are roofs and plumbing. And
I
I
heard
can
that.
provide you a list of everything that has been done, but it's going to take time. And I don't know that, I mean, I can do that, and it's going to take time, because if you can say, if you are not willing to go forward at this time, we may need to figure out something else, because this project application period is only open for so long, and there's a great deal of work to be done. And so we could go forward with the public hearing, and you wouldn't still have to do the application if you didn't want to, but at least the public hearing and the comment period for that would be taken care of.
Well, I personally think that the information I'm asking for is probably an essential part to a public hearing, a demonstration of successes. And for these public dollars, they are public dollars. So I would like to have that information as we go forward. I don't know anything about this, and I hear your numbers, I hear your data, but I'd like to be able to stand on the street corner and tell my constituents why this is a good thing for them.
Okay, so here's what you would like, just to be sure. You would like to go back to 2006 and see every award that was made over the past years.
I think that's what I said.
Okay, I just want to be clear. So I think, you know, we can do that if that's what you want. So they're all going to average out to, I can also show you, well, no, I can do that. I will do that, but I'm going to have to, it's going to take some time. So that's all I can say. So I'll tell you the truth. You are the very first in all of these applications jurisdiction to ask for a complete list of all the awards that were made to homeowners. So I can do that. I can get all the list of all the awards and what they're made for, but it's going to take time, because we too have a lot going on in our organization.
Perhaps I can provide a little context on this program. So obviously, for the record, I am on the board of Polk CDCs, and have been since 2018. And then served as the certifying officer for Fall City, in one of the Fall City, grant periods. And, there, with all CDBG projects, there's a lot of reporting that needs to be done. So I'd be personally satisfied with a sampling throughout the years, of pictures, but have seen the pictures myself, have seen the impacts in my community. You know, we're doing roofs, we're doing energy efficient windows. So sometimes there's foundation work, plumbing work. And like Diana said, for folks, lots of seniors and other folks who can't afford to upkeep, which obviously makes lasting impacts on the neighborhood, and not only and the homeowner. But I think bringing some of that along to the public hearing would be great. That's when the public's supposed to be engaged and hear and learn more about the program, provide testimony, et cetera. But I do remember signing the forms. There's quite a bit of paperwork for each project. So I don't know, Diana, how you want to put that together, but some sort of portfolio of projects, kind of, I don't know if we need every single award. I think, you know, depending on how long that takes you, but that's just my personal opinion, but some sort of sampling of the before and afters and what we've been able to accomplish. But I'm a huge supporter of this program. I think it's a wonderful partnership. And I see on the list here that Polk County has only served as a certifying officer once in its history. And I understand that most of the projects are concentrated in cities. That's where most of our constituents live. Most of the residential zones are. So I'm not surprised there. But I do have a question on how we, or Polk CDC, sort of advertises this and makes this known to the general public. We have a lot of folks in pretty remote parts of the rural areas of the county. This was a kind of an issue in Fall City, and I made sure that my constituents knew about it in Fall City, but curious how countywide we get the word out to ensure that all eligible folks are aware that this is an option, especially since it's a grant program. We probably have plenty of people, homeowners, who satisfy the income requirements. So just curious on that point.
That's a good question, Jeremy. So what we do is we market the program in a variety of ways. We have the program on the website of each of the jurisdictions. I don't know that we have it on the Polk County website, but that would be great if we could do that. We have sent out, you know, I think you have the English, Spanish rehab flyers there. Do you have those in front of you?
Yeah.
Nicole? Yeah. So those have been sent out in utility bills, like in Fall City, we've sent those out in utility bills so that people who may not have access to the internet or can see those, and we post them in the libraries, post them at City Hall. And we're always open to new ways to better inform your constituents of this program, because we think this is an important program. It's a housing solution that is essential to the health and safety of the people in Polk County. In fact, that is the priority of the program, is that repairs that are made prioritize health and safety. And so everything that is awarded to an individual homeowner addresses their most urgent needs. And each home, prior to entering into an agreement and a contractor and selecting a contractor, each home receives a site-specific review under the environmental umbrella. We have a staff person that is whose sole purpose is to work with homeowners in the housing rehabilitation program. So each homeowner with this person reviews their home, decides what is the most important before they even enter into an agreement with us, and everything is based on health and safety. So I really appreciate the idea of a sampling. I think if Craig, if you would be satisfied with a sampling, I think that we'd be able to bring that forward a lot sooner, and it could be available by the time of a public hearing.
Are you suggesting that you don't have an inventory list?
We do, but we have a very complicated software program that calculates, called Community Development Manager. And it's going to take staff time, quite a lot of staff time, to go through every single one going back to 2006. So I mean, if you
10
are,
years.
do you want a full list of all the homeowners, or do you
All right,
want,
fine. I'll compromise to 10 years.
okay, the past 10 years? Okay. 2013, okay. And you want
Only
every
10 years of
homeowner-
inventory and how the money was spent.
Oh, boy, you want every homeowner, not just a sample.
Well, I don't need to know the homeowners' names. I just want to know what the projects were and how much money was spent.
No, I understand that, but you want every home for the past 10 years and how much money was spent and what the money was spent for.
Sure. That's what
Okay.
I'd like to see. Kind of in a dark space here.
Well,
Yeah.
okay, I don't know what to say. It's just gonna take some time, that's all. It's a complicated software program, and it's a complicated program like with a lot of due diligence.
That makes me
a lot
less
of due
anxious or
diligence.
less happy to be involved. If it's that
I'm sorry,
complicated.
I didn't hear
It
you.
just makes me less anxious or less interested in being involved if it's that complicated.
No, the software program has a lot of information, and it's gonna take time for staff to go through it. That's all I'm saying.
Diana, when would the public hearing be? You said we would, for this round, we would go out at the end of the year.
No,
Um,
yeah,
just, I'm trying to think of timeline, both for,
In the next 2 weeks.
oh, the public hearing would be in the next couple of
Well,
weeks.
you'd have to advertise.
Okay. And Diana, do you handle and you said Polk CC handles the posting and all the verbiage for the public hearing and all that stuff? I remember in Fall City, you were present for that.
we
I'm
do
just
all
trying to
of
get a
that.
sense of
Yeah, we do all of that.
admin.
Yes. We would notice in the IO for the public hearing. We would attend the public hearing, and as Craig has requested, we would bring forward the information that he's talking about to the public hearing and answer any questions that people may have. And at that point, I guess the county would decide, the commission would decide to say yay or nay to going forward with an application. So that might be the first step, you know. And once the public hearing has been in the paper, allowed 7 business days for comment, have the public hearing, would then need the approved minutes from that public hearing to submit through the intake and application process to start the application process. And I do everything. There's just a couple things that you have to do. You have to, for instance, someone has to review on paper the facilities that the county has to say yay or nay as to whether they meet 504 standards, accessibility standards. And that's about all you have to do. And then sign documents, as you mentioned, Jeremy.
So Diana, this is Lyle. And I've got a couple questions too. First, I'd kind of like to know how many homeowners have been impacted in city limits, and how many are in rural Polk County county areas outside city limits. So just to see what the rural or the people who live in the country are benefiting. And then next, one thing that concerns me that I noticed in your presentation, less than 25% of this goes to actual production costs. You have 100,000 put in, 25% in management. That is a really high percentage of management out of public dollars for nonprofits.
That is the CDBG budget that they propose. That is the CDBG budget. This is a 2-year program. We have 3 staff people. And so if you divide each of those by 2, that is so much a year for 3 staff people to deliver this program in a year and a half in the county to approximately 15 to 17 homes a year.
Okay.
And with regard to outside the city limits, I think it will not come as a surprise to you that probably about 10% of them are outside the city limits. And ironically, the state considers all of the jurisdictions in this PRC to be rural, but you know, we have worked with people outside the city limits, and we do advertise. We've worked with people in Grand Round and Willamina, and we certainly are very eager and open to being able to provide these services to homeowners outside the city limits of a jurisdiction. So if you can think of a way to better advertise for that, that would be great. I think the utility bill, everybody gets a utility bill. So that for us has been one of the best ways to advertise the program.
Yeah, I agree with that totally. With our concerns we have this year and such a tight timeline, what if we get to the point and we say no, and then you've missed it? Maybe you're better off finding a sponsor for this year and putting us on the list for next year. Or we have more information, more time to look at it.
Well,
I'm
that's
vouching for this
that,
program 100%. I'm happy to be the certifying officer. It requires reviewing application paperwork for each applicant. It doesn't take a ton of time. It's highly regulated by the federal government. And, you know, and I've seen the audits of this program. I've seen the benefits of it. I've seen every application for the year that I served as certifying officer. I'm happy to vouch for the county here. We've only sponsored this one time in its history. This is a regional collaborative. I think we ought to be in the mix, in the rotation for sponsoring the program. I do think there's ways to protect better to people in more remote areas. Curious if the district utilities are aware of it, and curious what the need is. But that's something I had to do in Fall City too. Fall City was underutilizing the program, I think largely because the word wasn't, folks don't know, right? So I think it's something we ought to promote. This helps people on fixed incomes to upkeep their house in ways they otherwise couldn't, which deteriorates their property, their health, and the neighborhood, the value in the neighborhood. So in terms of the fidelity of the program, I stand by it 100%. I think the question for me is, the admin time. Can we fit it on the schedule for a public hearing? But Polk CDC does cover most of that. There is a review process for each project needs signatures, multiple signatures from the CO. Again, I'm willing to do that. But I think, all of our partner jurisdictions have participated. I don't think it's a lot to ask for Polk County to be the lead for one of the grant cycles.
Right.
That's my opinion, though.
Let's get some information so we can just look at it a little more, and then let's look. I just like a little more information just to see myself. Yeah. I don't know if I need every project for the last 10 years, but I'd like to see the majority of them. Just a sampling doesn't answer the thing, but full depth for at least the last 4 to 5 years.
One suggestion too, Diana, having some kind of some data for community impact too, even if that's in like graph form or whatever, number of households benefited, geographic, distribution. You have a lot of that here, kind of the major projects that are most common. And then the demographics of folks who are served. You mentioned seniors. I think that's compelling information, and any other demographic information about folks served would be just good to have for the public to know.
So, I want to tell you, all of you, that I really appreciate your interest in what I would call a report. And we've just been so busy, and I have mentioned many times to the rehab team that we really need to develop a report with almost like a pie chart of where the money's going, that sort of thing. And I'm sorry to say that we've gotten so busy, but I really respect the idea that a report is really needed, and I'm going to work on that. And so I guess at this point in time, you tell me, you are going to discuss whether or not you will go forward with a public hearing. And like I said, if you do have a public hearing, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to make the application. It just means you've started what is needed. And the main reason I came to Polk County is, like Jeremy said, that you've only had one lead applicant position. And the other cities have more CDBG grants open, and you can only have 3 open. And so I asked about Polk County, and Polk County not having an open CDBG grant was probably the most eligible jurisdiction to lead the Polk Regional Collaborative at this time. So that's why I came to Polk County, but I respect the fact that a report is needed. And in summary, I think you want examples for the past many years of the homes, maybe in what jurisdiction they were and how much money was given to them and what work was done, and some pictures, some before and after pictures, which we do have. And so I'm happy to do that. I would be glad to do that. And I think it's a very reasonable request, and I appreciate the questions that you have asked.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
So where do we go from here?
Well, I can't imagine scheduling a hearing without all the information first.
Oh, I
So
see.
I don't want to be surprised.
I don't think there will be any surprises. The program cannot get away with anything, believe me.
I'm not
It all
suggesting
has to be
that.
focused. Yeah, it has
But
to
a
be
decision
focused.
has to be made by this body. And this body should have the opportunity to review the information prior to a public hearing.
Okay, the information is, again, a list of homes that have been helped, what has happened there, and how much money was spent on them. Right?
It's a good start. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna move on. USDA APHIS update. Landon. Welcome.
Slide in here.
Could you give us your full name and what you do for the record before you
Absolutely.
start?
So my name's Matt Alex. I'm the assistant supervisor. So Landon is our field specialist in Polk County. My name's Matt Alex, the assistant supervisor for the Northwest District. So I'm the primary supervisor for our northern counties, Columbia, Clackamas, Wasco, and Hood County. So Brian Thomas, who couldn't be here, he's the primary for our southern counties, including Polk County. So you folks have a handout here that provided beforehand. I wanted to give a little program background, highlight some of the special projects that we work, and then discuss a little bit of the specifics in Polk County here. So we are the federal government, a branch of the U.S. Department of Agriculture, about 55 employees in the state, comprised of specialists, biologists, supervisors, and our admin staff. The agency mission is to provide federal leadership and expertise to resolve wildlife conflicts to allow people and wildlife to coexist. So we're in the realm of wildlife damage management. We deal with predators kind of on the forefront, cougars, coyotes, bears, wolves. Wolves are a big emerging issue in Eastern Oregon and soon to be a West Side issue, in the years to come. In some counties, we deal with deer and elk damage, beaver and nutria. Some of our counties have a large component dealing with birds. Some of our specialists work at the local county landfill where we deal with gulls and ravens. We deal with starlings and magpies and other birds that cause damage in the livestock industry as well. And then some counties have a component of doing coyote or of raccoon, skunk, possum work as well. So as part of the USDA, our main emphasis is protecting the ag industry, livestock and crops. We deal with human health and safety threats. That's primarily coyote and cougar and bear. And then we protect natural resources. These are threatened and endangered species that occur in the state of Oregon, and then sometimes some sensitive habitats that are being degraded by wildlife in some way. Often that's invasive species like nutria. And then we protect property, and that's just kind of a large catch-all that can be a lot of different things. So service delivery in a typical county is delivered one of two ways, either technical assistance, which is an on-the-phone consult where we try to help a property owner kind of help themselves with some guidance. Oftentimes we come out to the site in person, and that's considered direct control, but we may be doing the same thing in person where we're providing kind of guidelines or recommendations on what they do, whether that's fencing or hazing or vegetation management to try to alleviate the problem on their own. And then sometimes if it's like coyotes killing sheep, we're going to try to deal with the offending wildlife. Slide number 6 there shows the county-based programs in Oregon with green where we do operate and red where we don't have a kind of a traditional county-based program, but we often work in these red counties as well in special projects and in certain capacities. Funding mechanisms in Oregon for us. So for the county-based program, as you folks know here in Polk County, the county provides the majority with some shared dollars, some kind of matching funds from state and federal. In some counties, in lieu of a county program, there's a predator board. So these are folks from livestock and ag industry that kind of pay in, and then we work for those folks. We also work for cities, we work for private entities, and then there's a number of special projects. A lot of these are like a government funded kind of thing with either local or state or feds. So some other unique work we do, coming over to slide 9. We work at airports and we try to prevent birds from hitting planes. So we work for civilian and military airports. It's a lot of bird hazing, some bird removal. Sometimes coyotes and deer end up on runways. So that's a big part of our program, kind of throughout the state, sprinkled at different airports. We also do a lot of bird management for ODOT, county road departments, city road departments, trying to reduce conflicts on construction sites. So imagine you've got a bridge getting demolished in this time of year, could have hundreds of bird nests on it, and either the project's going to get delayed or a bunch of birds are going to get killed if there's nothing done to alleviate that. So we try to keep birds out of these construction sites throughout the spring nesting season. So that's a big statewide project that I manage and work all kinds of bridges for ODOT across the state. We have a disease program throughout Wildlife Services nationwide with a disease biologist here in the Northwest District, actually out of the Portland area. His last few years has largely been dealing with avian influenza. It's been a big emerging disease in poultry and now crossing over to cattle. But he also works with our local trappers when they take wildlife, we're doing local sampling, and he's responding to local disease issues as well. Another thing we've done going for a couple of decades is feral swine eradication. So in most cases, we're not trying to remove every last critter in any situation, but with feral swine, the less, the better. So that's been a North Central Oregon, John Day Basin issue, and there are very few of them left, but we get immigration up from California crossing the border, and we respond to those sightings. And feral swine aren't a huge deal in the Northwest, but in Texas, there's like 2 or 3 million pigs. So it's a big deal. We don't want it to become a big deal here. Another couple things we do, threatened and endangered species protection, I mentioned. So within the state of Oregon, there are a number of different species where the wildlife managers have determined that predation is a limiting factor to their success. So this is ravens killing sage grouse in Northeast Oregon, snowy plovers on the coast, number of different predators there, Columbian white-tailed deer on the lower Columbia River, coyotes killing fawns, and then Columbia River salmon predation by cormorants. So they bring us in to try to reduce predation, increase fawn survival, increase nest success, whatever the case may be. And then lastly here, we have a research branch nationwide in Colorado that works with operations in each state. And so this year we had the opportunity to trap rats in downtown Portland, and then we were live trapping voles for the grass seed farmers here in the Mid-Valley. And we've got another project coming up where we're going to be live capturing beaver and putting some telemetry devices and monitoring their movement. So they give us they give the ops folks a little bit of funding to implement some of their projects from time to time. So that's a good partnership we have kind of internally. So here in Polk County, kind of historically, the main response has been coyotes and cougars. We've done skunk work, we've done some invasive species work with nutria and possums, and then some of that DOT work for ODOT has fallen within the boundaries of Polk County. And in usually the local county specialist, if there's a DOT project, it's in the area, he's going to do it. It kind of adds to his funding base and adds to his workload for the spring and summer season. So those are the species we primarily dealt with. The resources protected have largely been livestock. It's been sheep and goat damage. There's also been cattle, alpacas, swine, backyard fowl like chickens and ducks. There's been human health and safety issues that have come up. It's generally a cougar thing. Sometimes, not necessarily here in Polk County, but it can be urban coyotes killing cats or nipping at a kid or whatever the case may be. So that's been the primary resource protected. On the funding side for Polk County, fiscal year 23, Polk County provided a little over $18,000. There was $3,000 in matching federal funds. So that $18,300 was broken down about 2/3 into direct salary for land and kind of boots on the ground, and then some kind of program support with vehicle overhead hires. for the remaining third. So that comes out to about 310 hours in a year. So a full-time program will be 2,088. So it's about 15% of a full-time program. Of course, Landon has historically primarily worked in Benton County. And the way we've treated Polk County and others that have less than full-time funding is to try to make the funding that we do have last the 12 months. So we're in the front end, we're maybe spending less time on a particular site than we would in a fully funded county, because we want to serve the largest number of people for the longest duration. So each time we respond, it may be for a shorter interval, if that makes sense. We're trying to like kind of get in, get out, use the minimal amount of hours and make it last. So we appreciate the support from Polk County. Not really affecting service delivery in Polk County, but Landon's going to be moving to be our Marion and Polk County specialist, and we're going to have our Lynn and Benton County guy doing those two counties. So a little bit of switch up here with this fiscal year in the Northwest District. So I think that is about it, and I'd be happy to try to answer any questions you may have.
So Matt, sadly, you'll see that I have a theme here today
You do, okay.
about inventory.
On inventory, I like inventories.
I have not seen, I think I've been very supportive of this program, my 14 years here.
Okay.
But I never see a report on impacts. I don't know who my constituents are that are being helped. I don't know what the numbers of animals are that have been eliminated or have been moved. I don't know anything about what goes on. Today's the day I say that's enough for me. Again, I support this program. I think, but I don't hear from constituents in general. I don't hear from the agency. I've told Brian multiple times over the years, and Kevin Christensen, I think it would be appropriate if we got some reporting methodology here to tell us what the investment's doing. It's not a lot of money, but again, it's taxpayer money.
Absolutely.
Property taxpayer money. I have no idea. I mean, again, I see your stats and your outline, but I don't know what that means. And so, I mean, we should be getting that every year that we fund it. Not just a request to give us more money and then excuses as we've had in the past. Don't mean to beat up, but excuses about why it keeps going up on the county's part, but the state gets to turn down the volume and the feds get to turn down the volume of dollars. So, this feels like we're transferring responsibility to property taxpayers more and more to get this service. So I just need to see a better, I'm not opposed to funding it, but I just need to see
some data, yeah.
Yeah, who's getting helped? Where are we spending the money? Or where are the hours being spent? There's just no reporting process that helps me understand how are we compelled to pay for this?
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. I can talk with Brian about that and try to get some kind of tangible data your way. I mean, it's not going to be in terms of like specific folks' names or whatever, right? But like some kind of like total properties worked maybe. We've also, as an agency, I think have gone away from like the if you want to call it body count or whatever, providing that kind of data, but we can see getting into more detail kind of on that second to last slide about resources protected, responses by category or something like that for you. And you mentioned, so not hearing from your constituents, and I looked it up and I saw Landon's name and number is under the sheriff's office, kind of animal control. There's a component that has his contact info there. I was happy to see that. I didn't know for sure. Some counties do, some don't. So you don't get a lot of feedback then with Landon's activity in the county and like, hey, he helped me out on this cougar thing. And
I think I've seen him in the room one time in his tenure here. I've never seen anything from him.
Yeah. I'm talking about folks within the county that like call about some
Sheriff office doesn't
positive success story about how great a job he did. No, we're not getting that. Okay, that's something that, we like to encourage our folks to, when you have a like unique situation or maybe run of the mill, like, what would go a long way is a call into the county to say, hey, this guy helped me out. We really appreciate it. And that's something we'd like to foster more with Landon and kind of like having that happen and become routine. So it's something we got to work on. I agree.
You probably have some data on calls for service from Polk County and kind of what they entail and some of the trends.
What's that?
Would you have data regarding calls for service?
Yeah, I mean, and that was also in that other slide about, it's generally, it falls into a category of what species or, whether it's livestock or whether it's like, the human health and safety, cougar in my backyard, daytime sighting, that kind of thing. But we can see what kind of report we can get with some kind of tangible numbers. I know you guys need that. I respect that. Like, that's a common theme. and try to get you some.
So I guess one of my concerns is that if we're using property taxpayer dollars to pay for relocating beaver.
You're definitely not doing that.
That would be a problem.
You're
for me.
definitely not doing that.
But I have no idea.
Yeah,
I don't know where the money's being spent. I can tell you, we have a huge problem with elk in this county.
yeah, I've heard that. I've heard
What's
that.
happening there? You know, what's the engagement with
Mhm.
wildlife services on helping us with our elk problem?
Yeah,
Massive depredation issues. I'm trying to work with the state and create some depredation programs, but wildlife services, Brian's been involved in that
I know he's,
process, in the conversations, but I don't know what wildlife services is actually doing.
I don't think a whole lot on the elk front. I think that's more in the box of ODF and W in terms of a game animal. Where some of the other stuff falls in the egg and it's outside, like if it's a certain egg industry, it's kind of outside of ODF and W, it comes our way. And elk is definitely an ODF and W. They're the point person on that. But I've heard that going back 10 years or whatever, more maybe about those elk right along the highway, right?
Well, it's a huge problem across the entire state, elk in
It's a
general.
it's a big emerging issue too in Clatsop and Tillamook County. That's like the forefront on 101 there.
And I know the wildlife services is involved
Mhm.
in other areas with elk problems.
We have done some work in Northeast Oregon on some elk ag damage. I'm honestly, I'm not certain on the inner workings on how that goes and others don't. I'm not sure on all the behind the scenes, but I will bring that up to Brian and we'll try to get you guys something.
We had a customer call from West Salem Hills last fall, reached out to Landon. They had several skunks living under their house.
Oh, boy.
Landon was up there within a day,
Good.
set the traps, had them out the next day.
Perfect.
The lady and her husband were very impressed. But the quick response, tell Landon, thank you.
Okay, we'll do.
That's
good to
really
hear
about
that.
the only time I've ever utilized you also.
Okay.
So it would be nice to get an annual report of what, where and when and who.
Mhm.
So.
Absolutely.
One more question,
Sure.
because it might be a question that a member of the public might raise, but you mentioned that y'all did some work in Portland on some rat issues.
Yeah.
I'm noticing that Multnomah County is a red county, so not a participant,
Mhm.
gang participant.
Yeah.
So,
So that was NWRC. So that was actually our
Okay.
research branch gave us some money and
Gotcha.
then we worked with some entities we just had relationships with, just basically a kind of a pay as you go thing. We've
Gotcha.
done some other work and said, hey, we've got kind of in-house funds. Can we access your properties? So we were trying to like transfer stations in the zoos, trying to live catch rats, which is harder than you might think. They're pretty smart critters.
yeah, well evolved.
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks.
Them and coyotes, they'll be like the last ones left, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Matt.
Yep.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
What, just for context here, what's the request for this year?
I think it's about the same, 18,000.
I thought Brian had sent over that it wasn't even 20, but we can. Okay, I'll be both off. Thank you.
Thank you. It's 1,000 more. Okay, thanks so much.
Yes, thank
Appreciate
you.
you making the trip.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys have a good day. Thank you.
Shall we, Austin, shall we rearrange the agenda here just a little bit so you guys can get back at it?
Sure.
Okay,
We're ready.
all right. So this is in specific to Ford 23-01.
Right, good morning.
Morning.
I'm Hannah Berkner, Associate Planner with the Community Development Department. So our department received land use application FORD 2301. It's an application for a small tract template dwelling in a farm forest zoned property. On June 28th, 2024, the planning director approved this application along with 9 conditions of approval and set notice of the decision to surrounding property owners. Subsequently, timely appeal was filed, which identified several concerns, mostly related to the general and fire siding standards that were reviewed as part of the dwelling application, as well as the impact of the dwelling location on the closest neighboring property. Polk County Zoning Ordinance Section 111-280 requires the Board of Commissioners to determine the hearing body for this matter. The board can direct staff to schedule a public hearing before the Polk County Hearings Officer or schedule the hearing before the Board of Commissioners. Due to the technical nature of this application and appeal, staff recommends the board set the public hearing before the Polk County Hearings Officer.
Thank you. I've read the file. I've read the memo.
Me too. I'm good with going forward with setting the hearing before the hearings officer.
And is that your motion?
Yeah, it's a poorly stated motion, but that's my motion.
And I'll second that poorly
Okay.
stated motion.
Been moved and seconded to send this to the hearings officer. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate the time. All right. No, I'm still looking forward to this JCT listening to our conversation. Who's leading us off here?
I am.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, there's an opportunity statewide to provide information. There's a roadshow that the state has put on, trying to gather information from local jurisdictions. I believe there's one today and tonight in the Albany. That's the one that's second closest one to us. There's going to be one in Salem later in the calendar year, but it will be virtual. It will not be in person. So this is the closest in person roundtable opportunity to voice your opinion or talk about the current transportation planning for the next legislative session. AOC gave the counties some talking points to answer, to give the committee, I think that is what it's called, specifics about your county, important topics about your county, and those things. You have that in your packet outlining. Some of it is technical, asking how many miles of road we have, how many bridges we have, blah, 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 the condition of our road pavement. Unfortunately, it won't make ODOT very happy because ours is all good and theirs is not so good. But those are the technical aspects of it. Then they asked some generalized questions. They had 4 bullet points on that. What is your top of mind for you on the upcoming transportation work or package? What is your biggest concern? What are some of the factors that you can't control? And what are some problem-solving ideas for diverse, stable, and sufficient funding tools or other problem-solving ideas? So those are the talking points that AOC gave. They're very vanilla. They're very, in my opinion, they're very vanilla, and they're trying to show strong partnership between counties, locals, and ODOT and those kind of things. I don't think, in my opinion, again, that it really addresses the issues that are before the state and their transportation system. I wrote a secondary cover type memo that kind of addresses what I think the state should be looking at. Basically, the theme of the talking points is, how do we get more revenue? How do we put this burden on the taxpayer in the form of a gas tax, tolling, a whole myriad of options to get more money out of the people to fund projects that are perceived to be needed by ODOT and the state. They have not looked at anything involving what they're currently spending, and what I would do as a county is, before you look for revenue from the outside, look internally and try to fix your issues inside. And that's where I think the talking points are missing. All they're asking for, other than the technical stuff, is, how do we get more money? What do you think can, pass muster with the voters? Those kind of things, without looking at ODOT and ODOT specifically. I mean, I give examples in my cover memo that, when we go to a meeting with ODOT, we may have 2 or 3 people there. They have 15 to 23 people there, of which maybe 5 speak. waste, in my opinion. You know, why does it take you 7 to 10 years to get a project done? We do it in a year. They should be able to do it in half the time. Every year they waste in planning and consensus and all that costs the taxpayer money. The construction industry doesn't slow down. Inflation doesn't slow down. So a project that you scope in year one, by the time ODOT gets it done, is sometimes 2 to 3 times more than what they originally thought. Of course, your money's not gonna go that far because you've wasted so much time and you don't have the resources to do it. So it's those kind of things. I kind of went on a venting issue because of my frustrations with ODOT and what I see is a lot of waste in their system. But we've kind of answered the talking points that AOC put forth. And I tried to address more of the issues of expenses with the cover memo. Whether you want to use any of that or not, that's up to the board. I think Lyle's going to be the spokesperson at today's roundtable, which is this afternoon in Albany. I did not get an email, so I'm not on the invite list.
You're allowed to come, but you will not be allowed to speak. You'll be a listening participant.
So probably not worth me going because I don't know if I could sit there and stomach it very well unless the board directs me to go, and then I'll go and I'll be happy to go and won't be happy while I'm there. But it's those things. Craig had some suggestions. I incorporated the one on their bonding and reevaluating their bonding and their bonding methodology. I couldn't figure out a way to put the tolling in the questions that they kind of gave us. And tolling is somewhat put on the back table for a little while, but I'm sure they're going to use that as a method for funding projects. I guarantee they'll use it for the Columbia River Bridge if and when that ever gets going, which will cost more and more as time goes on. But you know, I could have gone on and on. I could have gotten nastier and nastier, but I didn't. I tried to keep it somewhat professional without completely bashing them, but that's how I see it. And again, it's my opinion. I mean, you've heard me voice it more than once in my tenure here. So, you know, that's just where I think the state is missing the boat on the transportation system. I think they should look at contracting more of their services out. I think they should look at contracting with local entities, i.e. counties, to address some of their smaller state highways. For example, Kings Valley Highway in Polk County, Highway 51. Those are smaller highways that it may be more cost effective and more timely for us to maintain than, you know, we don't want to ever get involved with the interstates and that's a big time federal and you just don't want to get there. We don't have an interstate in Polk County anyway, so it'd be off the table. But, you know, we've done work for them in the past. In the 2006 road bond, we had very good asphalt pricing. We contacted the state because a portion of Kings Valley Highway was in poor condition. We asked them if they would want to piggyback on us because they weren't scheduling to do that work for another 2 or 3 years, which would have, the condition of the road would have gotten a lot worse. The cost of maintaining it would have gotten a lot higher. We gave them that opportunity. They gave us the green light to do that from basically the city limits of Dallas all the way out to just basically Airlie Road. So we utilized our pricing and our contractor at that time to do that work. We weren't allowed to put the necessary asphalt levels that we felt were necessary to beef up that road They were limited to 2 inches or less because ODOT rules, if it's 2 inches or less, it's maintenance. If it's more than 2 inches, it's a construction project and it's got to go in the queue and it's got to do this and this. You got to have a billion meetings and you got to waste a lot of time when it's asphalt. I mean, we operated that way. Our roads wouldn't be number one in the state. They would be somewhere in the middle. And you got to address, I mean, it's like your home. You repair your roof before it's leaking, because once it's leaking and causing interior damage, guess what? The cost goes up exponentially. Same with roads. If you address it early and be a little more preventive, cost of maintaining roads are much less than massive improvements, dig outs, those kind of things. And we're getting a little technical on road and how to manage roads, but it's those kind of things that I see that ODOT really needs to take a look at, and the state needs to take a look at, and the legislature needs to force them to take a look at how they do business. But I'm off my soapbox. You guys are the ones that have to present this, or at least Lyle does.
So examples on cost savings, we just spent 18 months for my first 3 years here designing the roundabout at 99 in Cloud Corner. We're putting a second one within 5 air miles of the same region. But we have to start back at zero, ground zero, and develop a whole nother roundabout in the same region. We could have taken that same format, which was the first presentation that the MAC, which is the Mobility Action Committee, so in freight, that is the first roundabout that they said, this works, we like this, go ahead. We sat through 4 presentations of roundabouts prior to that one, and they shut all 4 down, and they accepted this one. But 5 air miles away, same farm, same thing. It does have a higher traffic count, but it's one of the main traffic thoroughfares coming back and forth from the coast out to the rest of the state. And we have to start at ground zero. So we spent the last 18 months developing another roundabout, which that could have saved us about $3 million on the project. And we just taken that and adapted it to the topographical area and the roads in that region. So Highway 22 and 51 has been going on since 1999. How many times have been put back? Because it's tough and challenging. And now look at what we have. They have spent so much money and wasted so much because they shelve projects. And when they go to pick it back up, you have to start back over and redo the environmental studies because they're outdated. And those things shouldn't be happening. The meetings was a great point. We have a meeting every month on Kings Valley Highway 223. There's 20 to 30 people there, 5 to 6 people actually comment. The rest are waiting for everybody else to get their work done before they can even start their project or their part of the scope of the project. It's just a total waste of money. And for the last 6 months, I've been hearing nothing about, but there are going to be no new projects in the year 2025. It's going to be focused 100% on maintenance. Then when they give us the proposed budget first line shows maintenance, $270 million. The next line is pedestrian bicycle projects, $135 million. That's 50% of what we're gonna do in maintenance. That's a third of our budget. On bicycle pedestrians who pay no taxes for our roads, yet we have to provide them the added asphalt and striping. So I've been proposing to every meeting, as I will again today, that they take 125 of that million of the bicycle pedestrian projects, which is new projects, which I was told they will not happen in 2025, and put it back into maintenance. Transit is another thing. They got the largest increase of any department in the state last year of $150 million for a biennial budget, but that was taken out of ODOT's budget and given to transit. Yet those buses drive on these same roads that are falling apart throughout the state. Every region's got their Butler Hill, their Highway 2251s and 18 and 22 key safety projects that are literally beyond capacity and have been for several years, but just keep kicking the can down the road. And when we call up for maintenance for the large potholes in the main streets of our towns or out on the highways, a 2-inch overlay does not fix the problem. It's going to start with the substructure digging out, adding rock, repacking, and then fixing it correctly. They wouldn't be back there the next year. So that's my soapbox. That's what I'm gonna be focused on today. And any input or questions or thoughts you'd like us to share while I'm down there?
Geez, I hope you have what you just said on the record written down so you can repeat it just the way you did. Because if you don't, you better get busy. That's my opinion. And I want Hanson's testimony included in yours, because he's right.
Yeah.
But if all we're gonna do is submit fluff answers for AOC's benefit, I don't know why you're bothering.
Right.
I mean, they know the stats on how many roads and bridges we have. We don't need to keep repeating that. That's the benefit for our constituents. ODOT doesn't care. They're not listening to that. Neither is that committee. It really doesn't mean that much to them. We need to talk about the real serious challenges that are going on with this state agencies particularly, and how we have fallen victim as partners to their methodologies. Now we can beat up on, bike paths and pedestrian projects and so forth. I think the numbers that you cite are important. It's appropriate, but my frustrations come down to, again, some of the things that Greg has said here. The bonded indebtedness. They saw this coming. It wasn't like they were ignorant to this process. They had lots of economists telling them, don't do this. You will not be able to make bond payments, but they did it anyway in House Bill 2017 without actually having more than adequate funds coming in with increases in gas tax to meet that indebtedness. So here we are in a crisis mode. And again, no maintenance, that's my issue. You just stop. If you're not gonna maintain the roads and help us maintain those as a partner, then we've failed at everything. So that's how I'm hoping that you'll say that. Again, the example right here in Polk County, top PCI in the state. We have a fundamental process of maintaining our roads first. That's what we do. And it works. And we can spread that investment over a longer period of time. So I'm doing my own soapbox, but
Yep.
I like what you said. I hope you'll do that. I think falling into the trap of just giving the canned answers on AOC's benefit doesn't do anything for me. So, you said everything perfectly. I think it's important for this committee to hear this roundabout story specifically. This is insanity. It's insanity. And they're all scratching their head wondering, what can we do? Just like Greg said, just more revenue. No, stop. That's enough. Start figuring out how to do it right. We'd never get away with it. We'd be out of jobs. There's no way our constituents would reelect us if that's all we did. So, and that I think is a huge problem with our state agencies and the bureaucracy, that bloated bureaucracy is they don't have to answer to anybody apparently. So, thank you.
So tolling is put on the back burner until after the elections. And it's coming back.
Sure.
They've given the tolling on the new bridge to the state of Washington to oversight because they already have the tolling system in place. They won't have to create anything, which I think is a very wise move. Be much more efficient.
What's the admin fee again?
Yeah, no idea. They don't answer that question.
Well, but in the work I've done in this liaison job, that admin fee for tolling is around the country, 85% of the collected.
And
Now,
what's this?
what taxpayer or fee payer is gonna say, gosh, that sounds like a great idea. Give 85 cents on the dollar of what I put in the basket to get across this bridge as the admin fee to administer it.
Well, you just gave CDC a great pat on the back for only taking 25%. So, but yeah, that's where it's going.
To the point, that is a CDBG. Another federal program that needs that more efficiency. Yeah, I support you guys. And just want to mention, there's kind of a perverse incentive with the professional, AOC, LOC, and others to say, what do you need? What are your revenue deficits? What could you use money for? You're almost incentivized to say, wow, well, I have this project. This project would be nice. Everybody's asking for more funds, when the tour should start with how do we build efficiencies, regional partnerships with private contractors and counties. Where can we get things done cheaper? How can
Maybe
we
even
do
leave
this?
with do no harm.
Do no harm, yeah. Well, to your point, if we had a deficit in our public works department, we'd examine our process, we'd examine the structure of the department. We examined things before we went to the revenue side of solutions, right? And this is just more of the same. This is a problem across the country. You know, the question, why is it so expensive to build in the United States is a problem, but I think it's especially bad here. And, you know, also Polk County's ethos is generally, let's not create more burden than what the state and the feds require. From land use to projects, whatever it is, I think ODOT and the state agencies ought to look at that same opportunity. How do we build efficiencies in our process while meeting our federal requirements, et cetera? But yeah, it's absurd. The absurdity is, I mean, you have a perfect list. So
I mean, internally, we have the smallest road crew in the area with the highest PCI. That shows that it doesn't require all the staff, it requires how you do business.
we could deliver federal projects if there was a process. by
We're
which
not
we could-
allowed to because they won't authorize, I mean, we can't get certified to do that.
Right, it's
That's
it's
another story. We
an
won't go there.
arbitrary roadblock to efficiency.
Yep.
And delivering safety outcomes for our public, so.
Yep.
Way to channel your frustration to rational argument. I commend you.
If they listen.
I bet you'll be one of the few who isn't just asking for more funds.
That's the disappointing part of it, isn't it?
Mhm.
They all just kind of all lockstep in line. Well, it looks like this is the solution. Figure out a way to take more money from your constituency.
We have to protect our allotment of the gas tax, yes, but the bigger conversations are right in front of them.
Well, especially when we know that we have threats right here in representation in our own county to reach into our property taxes. And or promote more direct taxation at the pump on our citizens.
When it was first appointed in 2019, they were redoing 99 in Bethel and expanding the box culvert. It was actually from a culvert to a box culvert for the fish.
Mhm.
But they built it, half of the project that was designed for the intersection. So they widened it, ready to go. They literally filled it all in, packed it, paved it, had the pavement over the entire thing. And they came back and tore half the pavement up because they didn't do the federal NEPA process, so they couldn't leave it. How much money did they waste on that project? It was unbelievable. And they had it all done. It was paved,
Where was it?
99 in Bethel,
Oh, gosh.
McCoy Junction.
McCoy Junction.
That's what lights me up because I was in that one and argued the whole time. It's like, why aren't we just moving forward? Just stop, because you know you're gonna put a turn lane in here.
Jody Christian signed it all the way to Governor Brown, and Governor Brown's answer to us was, I do not have the education in transportation and engineering as those people do.
Truest
So
word
how
she's
can
ever
I
said.
question them?
Be thankful Eddyville wasn't in your county.
Ah,
Yes. Yes, indeed. All right. You have your marching orders? You know what
I
you're
do.
gonna do? Good.
I got it.
I knew you did anyway, so good job. Non-listed items.
You might be able to get out to Black Rock and watch two massive cranes lift a bridge. If you wanted to, it arrived yesterday. Those cranes can extend up to 300 feet. We don't need that much height in this case, but
It's
pretty
pretty,
impressive.
they're big machines.
I have Stephen Kale hopefully taking a video so we can see it later, but I may drive out there just to check things out.
And I would love to have, as a former tire guy, I would have loved to have that account. A lot of tires.
Yep.
All right, we are adjourned.